Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Monday Night Raw review. Monday Night Raw tonight was from the VyStar Veterans Memorial Arena in Jacksonville, Florida. And Monday Night Raw tonight, you already know what I'm going to say, but did we all just watch a rerun of Monday Night Raw? Haven't we seen like 3 matches already before? The show was absolutely abysmal tonight, and boring. Very pointless show. That's Monday Night Raw, as always, every single week. But look at what we got tonight. Finn Balor versus Damian Priest. We saw this 2 weeks ago already, and Finn Balor won the United States Championship that night 2 weeks ago on Monday Night Raw. This match that we saw tonight wasn't for the title. And then we saw Liv Morgan versus Queenslander Vega. We saw this last week, only it was a tag team match. And Liv Morgan ended up beating Zelina Vega last week. Bianca Belair versus Doudrop. What is this? Like the 30th time that we've seen Bianca Belair and Doudrop go at it in the ring? I've lost count. That's how much I give a shit. So we saw that again. We had Rey and Dominik Mysterio versus Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexandra. Omos versus Commander Azeez, which we saw last week. Omos and Commander Azeez got face-to-face in the middle of the ring after Omos ended up beating Apollo Crews. We had an Arcade Bros celebration of them celebrating winning the Raw Tag Team Championship again. And the main event, we have Seth Rollins versus Kevin Owens. The winner gets to interview Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania. And when I get to that segment, you're going to be like, why the fuck did they do this? And you're going to be like, who fucking wrote this? And when you get to the match, at the end of it, you're like, what the fuck was that? Yeah, that was Monday Night Raw tonight. Abysmal. Absolute fucking garbage. But before I start the review, sad news that broke out when Monday Night Raw went on the air at 8 o'clock. And this has been going on throughout the day before it was announced on Raw. We lost Scott Hall, a.k.a. Razor Ramon, today. He passed away. He was 63. And he had multiple heart attacks. And there was a report that came out today that he was taken off life support. But he was still alive when that article became, announced. And a lot of people online, they were already writing, "Rest in peace, Scott Hall." I'm like, don't rush it. Wait until it's officially announced. Because when WWE announces like a superstar passing, like a legend passing, you already know that it's official. If WWE goes out there and posts it. Yeah, very sad day. We lost Scott Hall, aka Razor Ramon, and he was a great wrestler. He's a legend, 2-time WWE Hall of Famer, and I love that classic match that he had with Shawn Michaels for the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania 10. It was the first ever ladder match in WWE, just a very classic match. He won the Intercontinental Championship 4 times. He was a 4-time Intercontinental Champion. But he was a great wrestler. He's a legend, 2-time WWE Hall of Famer, 4-time Intercontinental Champion. One of my favorite matches is him versus Shawn Michaels in the first ever ladder match in WWE. that took place at WrestleMania 10 from Madison Square Garden. Just a great match that was, one of my favorites, and he ended up winning the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania 10 in that ladder match. And of course, he was in WCW. He became a member of the NWO along with Hogan and Nash and Kevin Nash. And he did great there. In WCW, he was a two-time WCW United States Heavyweight Champion. He was a one-time WCW World Television Champion and a 9-time WCW World Tag Team Champion. And of course, his Razor Ramon gimmick was based off of, Scarface, Tony Montana. The character was modeled after, Tony Montana. And another character in Scarface, which, he always said, "Hello to the bad guy," or "Hey yo," and he always had, the toothpick. But the other thing that I remember was him coming back to WWE in 2002, where him, Kevin Nash, and Hulk Hogan as the NWO came there. They made their debut at No Way Out of 2002. And that started off this rivalry between them and Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock, where Hogan was feuding with The Rock. The NWO ended up being down on The Rock. He was in the ambulance, and Hogan just rammed this truck into the ambulance, and that started off their rivalry, which led to the classic match at WrestleMania 18. But I liked Scott Hall's rivalry with Stone Cold Steve Austin, which was cool. There was one point on Monday Night Raw where Scott Hall ended up coming out with these cinder blocks, and he ended up taking one of the cinder blocks and destroying Stone Cold Steve Austin's leg. And then you had the WrestleMania 18 match where it was him versus Austin, where he ended up losing to Austin, and that was his first loss at WrestleMania. So, and then you had, of course, the NWO. He was still in there, and then it was X-Pac and Big Show, Paul White. So, and then he was in TNA for a while. But just a really sad day, just losing Scott Hall. We lost a legend. He was one of the greats. But condolences go out to his friends and family. But just very sad day. Very sad day for losing Scott Hall. May he rest in peace. But I met Scott Hall. I got a picture with him. Met him during WrestleMania weekend. It was WrestleMania 35. I met him the day of the Raw after WrestleMania, which was held at Barclays Center. But got a picture here of me and him, so I'm going to put it in the video here. So this is the picture right here. That photo was taken almost 3 years ago. It was great to get a photo with him. But like I said, my condolences go out to his friends and family. So it's been a very sad day in the world of professional wrestling. So rest in peace, Scott Hall. But anyways, let's jump right into the review. Monday Night Raw opened up tonight with the graphic for Scott Hall. They didn't do a 10-bell salute to him, but we did get a very well put together, nicely done video package showcasing Scott Hall's career later, which was featured later on the show. And then we went to Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens was in the ring. He got on the mic, and he did a tribute to Scott Hall by saying the two words that Scott Hall used to say, "Hey yo." So that was nice of Kevin Owens to tribute Scott Hall with those words that he used to say, hey yo. So Kevin Owens ended up saying that he is the happiest Canadian of all time because he's not just going to WrestleMania, he's going to the main event as far as he's concerned, because his guest for the KO show will be Stone Cold Steve Austin, WWE Hall of Famer Stone Cold Steve Austin. So Owens ended up going on about how his WrestleMania chances were looking bad, but he had the idea to challenge the Texan, who embodies the rest of the yellow-toothed Texans. He ended up going on about being proud of himself. Owens ended up saying that we will see the most stupendous WrestleMania ever. No, more like the most horrendous WrestleMania ever, as he smears Austin all over Texas. Owens ended up saying that he heard Austin loud and clear when he said he was coming to open one final can of whoop-ass. He ended up saying that the only can that will be open is a can of Canadian beer after he finishes Stone Cold Steve Austin off. Owens ended up saying that he doesn't drink beer, but he will make an exception this time. He ended up saying no one will be saying, "Oh, hell yeah," when he's done with Austin. They will say, "Oh, hell no," when he's done beating the hell out of Austin. So Kevin Owens ended up kicking the camera guy, and he dropped the camera guy with the stunner, and that was basically that. That was how the segment ended. But overall, we all knew that Stone Cold Steve Austin was going to answer Kevin Owens, appear at WrestleMania. It's good that Austin is not coming out of retirement to have a match with Kevin Owens, which is good. It's good that he's not getting back into the ring and wrestling a match. I don't think we all want to see Austin have a match. I know I didn't want to see it. I know a lot of you didn't want to see that either. I mean, who would want to see Austin get back in the ring and have a match? Come out of retirement. Look what happened to Shawn Michaels. And the match that he teamed up with Triple H to take on Undertaker and Kane in Saudi Arabia. What did that do for Shawn Michaels? But overall, this was a very meh segment, in my opinion. It's just Kevin Owens going, "Oh, Austin responded to me. He's going to appear at WrestleMania and be on the KO show. I'm going to smear Austin all over Texas. And no one will be saying, 'Oh, hell yeah,' when I'm done with him. They'll be saying, 'Oh, hell no.'" So it's just that. Very generic. And then we have the first match of the night, which was a rematch. What we saw last week. Finn Balor versus Damian Priest. This was a non-title match. Same shit that we saw 2 weeks ago, but the United States Championship was on the line 2 weeks ago, and Balor won it. Only this week, it was non-title. We had Austin Theory end up coming out, and Theory was on commentary during the match. For what reason, I don't know. I was expecting Pat McAfee to come out and just beat the hell out of Austin Theory after Theory ended up beating the hell out of him on SmackDown on Friday. But we didn't get Pat McAfee. So the match ended up started. Balor ended up nailing a drop kick to Priest. Priest came out of the corner, ended up decking Balor. Balor ended up delivering some shoulder thrust to Priest. Priest dodged a stomp from Balor, and both him and Balor started trading counters. Balor kicked Priest in the head, sent him out to the floor. Balor ended up going for a running kick from the apron, and Priest ended up catching Balor. Balor ended up going down on the edge of the apron because Priest ended up kicking Balor's other leg. So we had Priest ended up launching Balor onto the commentary table with the Razor's Edge. And As Monday Night Raw came back from commercial, Priest ended up nailing the side slam to Balor in the middle of the ring. He went for the cover. Balor kicked out at 2. Priest stalked Balor, started talking some trash, started kicking him around. Priest delivered a forearm to Balor's face. And Priest ended up running to a boot in the corner from Balor. Balor delivered a double stomp to Priest's chest. And then he hit the sling blade. And Balor ended up going up to the top to hit the coup de grace. Theory ended up running up and distracted Balor from the apron. So Balor and Austin Theory were having some words. Priest ended up taking advantage of that distraction. He ended up grabbing Balor. Balor ended up dropping Priest with a shot from the apron. Balor ended up going down on the floor, and he ended up nailing a run and drop kick, which sent Theory into the barricade. Balor ended up coming back in, and Priest delivered the reckoning on Balor, so Priest ended up going for the cover. And there you go. Damian Priest ended up winning the match. Post-match, Priest ended up marching to the back. Theory ended up coming into the ring. Austin Theory ended up attacking Balor, nailed the ATL on Balor. And then he started taking a selfie, pointed up at the WrestleMania sign. And Austin Theory ended up heading to the back as he was still taking selfies. So that was that. Overall, same shit that we have seen. Only 2 weeks later, right here, Damian Priest ended up winning. So, what you mean to tell me is you had Balor win 2 weeks ago and be the new United States champion. Only 2 weeks later to lose to Damian Priest. And that's typical WWE, having their champions lose. It shouldn't be that way. Champions should not be losing every single time. That's how WWE creative works. That's how Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard like that way. But how creative brings to them. This is typical WWE 50-50 booking. You have Finn Balor win it 2 weeks ago, win the United States Championship. Only 2 weeks later for Damian Priest to win. So, 50-50 booking. Typical WWE. What it's going to mean? Balor's going to be a transitional champion? And the title's going on someone else? Man, if they keep booking Balor this way and losing, he's buried. And then we had Kevin Patrick. Kevin Patrick ended up approaching Seth Rollins, which Seth Rollins doesn't have an opponent for WrestleMania. And originally, from what I heard and read, it was really supposed to be Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins. But this whole Cody Rhodes situation, it's just very confusing. He leaves AEW with his wife Brandy. This talks about, oh yeah, he might sign with WWE, and there was a article that he did sign with WWE, and there was an article that came out, oh, he was going to be Seth Rollins' opponent at WrestleMania. I don't know what to believe anymore with this whole Cody Rhodes situation. Will he go to WWE? Maybe. Will he appear at WrestleMania? Who knows? Will he appear at the Raw after WrestleMania? Who knows? There's people saying, oh, he might show up at WrestleMania, or he might show up the Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania. Or Cody could just be swerving people. Maybe AEW or Tony Khan wants to bring Cody back so that he could run Ring of Honor. So, who knows? This whole Cody Rhodes situation, if he's signing with WWE, if he's going to be at WrestleMania, all like that, it's just a mess. So Kevin Patrick ended up asking Seth Rollins if anything has changed in the last week. Or is he still not a part of WrestleMania? So Rollins ended up staring at Kevin Patrick, and we heard the fans chanting Cody, because there was a report saying, oh, Cody might show up to Monday Night Raw. So that was what Seth Rollins did. He just stared at Kevin Patrick. And then we had Omos versus Commander Azeez. If you remember last week, Omos ended up defeating Apollo Crews, typical squash match. And then Commander Azeez and Omos had a stare down in the middle of the ring. And I said last week, I'm like, are we really going to get Omos versus Commander Azeez at WrestleMania? But thankfully, that is not the case, which is good, because that would have made WrestleMania even more fucking terrible. But we got the match tonight. Typical squash match. Omos ended up coming out first. And then as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Commander Azeez came out along with Apollo Crews. And just, like I said, typical squash match. Omos ended up blocking a suplex from Commander Azeez. Omos delivered a suplex of his own to Commander Azeez. And then he nailed Commander Azeez with a choke slam. And that was that. Omos ended up winning the match. Post-match, Omos ended up grabbing Apollo Crews, picked him up off the floor, and he brought Apollo Crews into the ring. He ended up driving Apollo Crews down to the mat next to Commander Azeez. And that was that. Typical squash match for Omos. Omos is terrible. He's a Great Khali 2.0. Just very boring. Omos is boring. Moving on. Kevin Owens ended up approaching Seth Rollins backstage. Owens ended up saying that he understands things are tough, but tough times don't last, and that tough guys do. He ended up saying that Rollins can still get on, WrestleMania if he just focuses his energy elsewhere and comes up with something, like he did, like Kevin Owens did. He ended up saying that Rollins is the visionary, so he needs to come up with a vision. Owens ended up bringing up some of Rollins' WrestleMania moments. And he was telling him to build something for himself at WrestleMania so that he can have and then Rollins suddenly smiled. Apparently Rollins has an idea. So Rollins ended up rushing off, and Kevin Owens ended up thinking that he helped Rollins come up with a vision. So pretty much that was basically that. And then we went to Liv Morgan versus Queen Zelina Vega. We just saw this last week with Liv Morgan pinning Zelina Vega. It was a tag team match, and then you had Carmella last week, all on top of her soon-to-be husband, Corey Graves, and having Liv Morgan pin Zelina Vega last week. Same shit that we saw, same shit that we got tonight. Rinse and repeat. That's all this Raw was. Rinse and repeat. Damian Priest versus Finn Balor, rinse and repeat match. Liv Morgan versus Queen Zelina Vega, rinse and repeat match. Even though it was a tag team match last week, but still, the end of that match last week, Liv Morgan ended up pinning Vega. And then you had Bianca Belair versus Doudrop. Another rinse and repeat match. So we had Liv Morgan ended up coming out along with Rhea Ripley. And as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, we saw how Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley earned their spot in the match at WrestleMania for the Women's Tag Team Championship. So then out came Queen Zelina Vega and Carmella. We saw a pre-recorded video of Zelina Vega addressing Carmella backstage, and thankfully, Zelina Vega didn't do her shitty Queen accent. It's just her talking how she regularly talks. So hopefully they dropped that accent for good for Zelina Vega. I don't want to see Zelina Vega coming out there and be like, oh, well, we just won the match, me and Carmella. You know, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that from Zelina Vega. Hopefully they drop that for Zelina Vega. Zelina Vega doesn't need an accent like that where she's acting all royalty. She doesn't need it. So, Zelina Vega ended up addressing Carmella. She was telling Carmella that she's been preoccupied ever since her reality series with Corey Graves premiered. You know, Corey and Carmella it's on WWE's YouTube channel, which I heard got the lowest views on their YouTube channel, on WWE's YouTube channel. But I took a look at, you know, the episodes, and it's a guilty pleasure. You know, I like Corey Graves and Carmella's relationship. You know, looks like they have a pretty, you know, fun, you know, relationship together. And they're about to be married. So Zelina Vega ended up telling Carmella that she needs to focus on winning their match at WrestleMania, or else. So the match started off, Zelina Vega ended up kicking Liv Morgan, dropped her with a neck breaker. Vega ended up repositioning herself, and she ended up pulling back on Liv Morgan's neck. Vega kept control of the match, delivered a running knee to Liv Morgan's face, ended up going for the cover. Liv Morgan ended up kicking out at 2. So Liv Morgan ended up rolling Zelina Vega around the ring with the Gator Roll. Vega ended up kicking out at 2 as Morgan went for the cover. And then they did another Gator Roll around the ring. So then Carmella got on the apron. Liv ended up swinging at Carmella, and she ended up missing, which allowed Zelina Vega to powerbomb Liv Morgan out of the corner. And then Carmella celebrates at ringside. Rhea Ripley ended up approaching. Carmella started chasing her. Carmella then jumped into Corey Graves' arms at the commentary table. You know, just rinse and repeat like last week, where Carmella was just flirting with, you know, her soon-to-be husband, but she ends up jumping into her soon-to-be husband's arms. And so Rhea Ripley was talking some trash, ended up backing away. So Zelina Vega wasn't thrilled with Carmella and Corey Graves at ringside. And then Liv Morgan ended up covering Zelina Vega, and there you go. Liv Morgan ended up winning. Same ending that we got last week. Rinse and repeat. Carmella with her soon-to-be husband, Corey Graves, and Liv Morgan rolls up Vega. Saw this last week. Overall, awful match. And then we had Seth Rollins end up coming out. So Seth Rollins came out smiling, dancing his way down to the ring. And then we went back to the ring as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial. Rollins had the mic in hand. He ended up saying he has a plan to get himself to WrestleMania. He ended up saying that he thought all hope was lost for WrestleMania when him and Owens came up short with the match last week. But then his friend Kevin Owens ended up reminding him who he is. A visionary. A revolutionary. And he is Seth frickin' Rollins. And he has a plan. He ended up saying that he wants his best friend to be out here. So Rollins wanted to share the excitement with Kevin Owens. He called out Owens, and Owens ended up coming out. So Owens ended up asking if Rollins needs a drum roll. But Rollins was like, oh, I don't. So Rollins ended up bringing up Owens hosting the KO show with Stone Cold Steve Austin. And he ended up asking him, what if he has his own talk show, like Freaking Speaking with Seth Rollins? Or he can bring back the Rollins Report. No, we don't need any more talk shows on WWE television. We don't. We have so much. So Rollins was like, what if my guest was Austin? So Kevin Owens ended up saying, no way. Austin is his guest. He has a talk show at WrestleMania, and Rollins can have a talk show. Owens ended up saying that he's fully behind Rollins having a plan for WrestleMania. But this isn't it. So Rollins ended up agreeing that there can only be one talk show at WrestleMania. So he proposes that they have a match tonight, and the winner gets to have Austin as their talk show guest at WrestleMania. So Kevin Owens ended up saying no. He has the idea first, and that he's already pissed Austin off, and that Austin is coming for him. So Owens and Rollins were arguing. Sonya Deville ended up coming out, and Sonya Deville ended up admitting that she kind of likes this idea. What? How could you like this idea? So Sonya Deville ended up announcing that the main event will be Kevin Owens versus Seth Rollins, and if Rollins wins, he will replace Kevin Owens at WrestleMania. So Owens was seething, and Rollins was loving the idea. Tell me how this makes any fucking sense. So if Rollins wins, he will replace Owens to interview Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania. Who the fuck wrote this? This is awful, awful writing. Oh, if Rollins wins, oh, he will replace Kevin Owens, so that means Kevin Owens is not going to WrestleMania to interview Austin. Fucking stupid. Tell me how this makes any fucking sense. What an awful, terrible segment this was. And then we had the Mysterios versus Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin. This was a waste. This was boring. Mysterios ended up coming out. And then, as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Kevin Owens was backstage. He was arguing with Sonya Deville. He was upset with how she's making him face Seth Rollins with his WrestleMania segment on the line. And if I was Kevin Owens, I would be arguing, because this doesn't make any sense. So, we saw that. I would be upset if I were Kevin Owens. I'd be like, why the fuck am I having a match with Seth Rollins? And if Rollins wins, oh, I won't get to go to WrestleMania and interview Austin. Absolutely pointless this was to make this match. So then, we went back to the ring. Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin were already out there. Out came The Miz, and The Miz ended up bringing out Logan Paul. God, this show got much worse. So both The Miz and Logan Paul ended up heading to the ring, and they were on commentary for the match. Dominik ended up going at it with Shelton Benjamin as the match started. Dominik delivered her Hurricanrana to Shelton Benjamin. Dominik ended up going for an early 619. Shelton Benjamin ended up sending him to the apron off the counter. Cedric ended up delivering a clothesline to Dominik on the apron. He brought Dominik back into the ring, went for the cover. Dominik kicked out too. So Cedric ended up grounding Dominik in the middle of the ring. Dominik ended up fighting up, and Cedric dropped him. Cedric started working on Dominik while he was taunting him. So we had Ray end up tagging in. He started unloading on Cedric with some offense. Ray knocked Shelton Benjamin off of the apron. He kept control of Cedric Alexander. He dropped Cedric on his head with a tornado DDT. Went for the cover. Shelton ended up coming back in to break up the pin. Ray then ended up kicking Shelton Benjamin into the position for the 619. So Cedric ended up cutting Ray off and delivering a knee to Ray's gut. Ray knocked Cedric into position for the 619, which also sent Shelton Benjamin back out to the floor. So both Ray and Dominik hit the double 619 to Cedric. Ray ended up flying out. He ended up taking Shelton back down at ringside. Dominik then climbed up to the top, and he pointed down at Logan Paul and The Miz. And Dominik then ended up hitting the splash on Cedric. And he went for the cover, and there you go. The Mysterios ended up winning the match. Post-match, Logan Paul and The Miz end up attacking the Mysterios from behind. Rey and Dominik end up fighting them off. They end up sending Miz out to the floor. And so Logan Paul was surrounded by Dominik and Rey. So Logan Paul tried to fight back, and Rey and Dominik end up dropping him into position for the 619. And both Rey and Dominik were going to hit the 619, the double 619 to Logan Paul, but The Miz ended up pulling Logan Paul out of the ring. And pretty much that was basically that. But at this point, I'm like, Logan Paul and The Miz, they're being down on Rey and Dominik. Rey and Dominik can't beat down on The Miz and Logan Paul here. They were just getting their asses handed by the both of them. But I do not care for this match at WrestleMania. I really don't. Who cares to see the Mysterios versus Logan Paul and The Miz? This match is going to be awful. And if Logan Paul and The Miz win at WrestleMania, that is going to be an embarrassment. An embarrassment to both Rey and Dominik. And then we had Corey Graves, Byron Saxton, and Jimmy Smith. They end up announcing the next person to get inducted into this year's WWE Hall of Fame. And the person who's getting inducted into the Hall of Fame this year is Charmelle, Booker T's wife. So it was announced that Booker T will be inducting her into the Hall of Fame, of course. And when that news broke early this morning, I'm like, scratching my head. I'm like, really? Charmelle? I know she wasn't an in-ring competitor. She was just managing her husband, Booker T, on the outside. And, of course, she took part in the feud along with Booker T. If you remember when Booker was feuding with Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle couldn't stop mentioning about Charmelle. And, in storyline mode, if you remember, during that whole feud, Kurt Angle was like, oh, I want to have sex with Charmelle. So Kurt Angle was sexually harassing Charmelle in storyline. And, then after Booker's feud with Kurt Angle ended, she began turning heel and interfering in her husband's matches. And, of course, the whole thing with the King of the Ring, where Booker ended up winning the King of the Ring, defeating Bobby Lashley. And he was referring to himself as King Booker, and she was known as Queen Charmelle. And basically, Charmelle was just helping Booker get all the wins. And so there was a point where, of course, Charmelle and Booker began a feud with the Boogeyman. If you remember, the match at WrestleMania 22 was the handicap match between them, Booker T, and Charmelle versus the Boogeyman. And Boogeyman managed to kiss Charmelle while he had the mouth full of worms, which was disgusting. But I'm like, when I saw that this morning, I'm like, Charmelle going into the Hall of Fame, really? Just made me scratch my head. I'm like, okay. There you go. Charmelle's going into the Hall of Fame this year. And then we had Edge. Edge ended up coming out. He came out to The Other Side by Alter Bridge, which the song fits Edge well here in this heel role. So we still got, Edge and the other lights, making him look like The Undertaker. So Edge Taker, as I would call him. So I'm liking this Edge here. This is heel Edge throwback to when he had his feud with John Cena. It's been a long while since we've seen Edge be a heel. It's been almost a decade since Edge was a heel. So Edge ended up getting on the mic. He ended up saying, "Let's bring everyone up to speed. He is the benchmark of the company." He wanted to say that he's realized over the past few weeks what he really is. He ended up saying that he is better than everyone. It's a given. He's better than all the fans. But he's better than every person in this industry. He ended up saying that it's taken him some time since returning 2 years ago to show this. Because the Edge who returned was weak, as he focused on appeasing the fans. So Edge wanted to say that he's now realized the fans don't matter to him. So he ended up recalling some of his losses. He brought up his feud with Randy Orton, his feud with Seth Rollins, and also his title shot against Roman Reigns, which he ended up calling Roman Reigns the Aquaman cosplayer who can't lace his boots. So he made that joke because Jason Momoa looks like Roman Reigns. If you see Jason Momoa, he looks like Roman Reigns. He has the hair, the long hair, the beard. So Jason Momoa could be Roman Reigns' twin. So Edge ended up saying that if Edge faced Styles at WrestleMania, Styles will leave him in the dust. But he ended up saying that Edge is dead. He wanted to say now he sits on his mountain of omnipotence and he looks down on everyone. Edge wanted to say that he won't be judged by the fans or anyone in the locker room, and certainly not by Styles. So Edge ended up saying that if Styles makes it to WrestleMania with 2 generational talents in the ring, he will be judged. As the fans were chanting, "You suck" to Edge. So Edge ended up dropping the mic, and he got out of the ring, and that was how the segment ended. But this was a enjoyable segment with Edge. Really liking Edge here. It's been a long while since we've seen Edge as a heel. The new song fits Edge really well by Alter Bridge. So just really am liking what I'm seeing with Edge. And it's one of the matches that I'm looking forward to at WrestleMania. Edge versus Styles. I know both guys are going to deliver at WrestleMania. And then we saw Sarah Schreiber. Sarah Schreiber was backstage with Bianca Belair. Sarah Schreiber was asking about how Becky is saying Bianca's hair is an advantage going into WrestleMania. Bianca ended up telling Sarah Schreiber that her hair is an advantage, but also a disadvantage. She ended up telling Sarah Schreiber that she uses her hair to whip some sense into Becky, but only after Becky used her hair against her. And that she did use her hair to whip some sense into Becky. So Bianca ended up going on. She ended up saying that the real advantage is this. We no longer hear Becky running her mouth. And Raw has been quiet since she taught Becky a lesson with whipping her hair at Becky. Bianca ended up saying tonight she will use Doudrop to give Becky Lynch a preview of WrestleMania. She ended up saying that if Becky can't talk now, wait until she shuts her up for good at WrestleMania. So that was what Bianca had to say. And then we had, once again, Bianca Belair versus Doudrop. We saw this so many times. Nothing different than what we saw the other times that they fought. It's the same rinse and repeat shit. And then we had another vignette as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial. Another vignette for Veer Mahan coming soon. When is he coming soon? How many months have we seen Veer Mahan coming soon to Monday Night Raw? You know when Veer Mahan's coming soon? Veer Mahaan's coming soon when he gets a release. Because WWE doesn't have any plans probably for Veer Mahaan. So let's take it by Keep On Air and Veer Mahaan Coming Soon vignettes. It's going to be the summertime, July, August. Can you imagine that? And then still, Veer Mahaan coming soon to Monday Night Raw. You want to see Veer Mahaan? Go watch the matches that he had on Main Event. That's the only time you see Veer Mahaan. So we're going to be still seeing Veer Mahaan coming soon to Monday Night Raw. So then we went back to the ring. Bianca Belair was in there. And then Doudrop ended up making her way out. She came out alongside Nikki ASH. And then we had a pre-recorded backstage promo from both Doudrop and Nikki. Nikki ended up saying that real heroes fight fair and don't use illegal objects to win. Doudrop ended up saying that if Bianca tries to use her hair as a whip, she will rip her hair braid off her scalp with her bare hands. And so Nikki and Doudrop end up saying that they both are rooting for Becky Lynch at WrestleMania. So then the match ended up starting. Like, do I really need to go over this match? Because we've seen it so many times. The same rinse and repeat shit. Nothing different. This match was boring. So Bianca Belair ended up winning the match. She ended up nailing the KOD on Doudrop. Bianca Belair ended up winning. Post-match, Becky Lynch ended up appearing at ringside suddenly. She ended up using Bianca's braid, her hair, to bring her to the floor. She was talking trash to Bianca. Becky Lynch ended up sending Bianca into the ring steps. And then she sent Bianca face first into the commentary table. Becky Lynch ended up sending Bianca face first into a chair. Becky Lynch then took the chair, wrapped the chair around Bianca's head, and Becky ended up using Bianca's hair to yank Bianca and the chair into the ring post. So Bianca went into the ring post because of that by Becky Lynch. So Becky Lynch was talking trash to Bianca, and that was basically that. But WWE ended up releasing this on their social media page, and ended up saying, following the vicious assault from Becky Lynch on Raw, Bianca Belair has suffered trauma to the throat and is currently being evaluated by medical personnel. So that was what WWE posted on their social media. But overall, this match was boring between Bianca Belair and Doudrop. Same rinse and repeat shit. Seen it before. And then we had RK Bro. The RK Bros celebration of them winning the Raw Tag Team Championship. So the ring was set up, for a party. There were balloons in there. There was a banner that said RK Bro on it. So Riddle ended up saying that he keeps playing last week over and over in his head. And he's excited because him and Orton are going to WrestleMania. Orton ended up saying, damn right they are. So he ended up saying that he was doing math. And this WrestleMania will be his 18th. And he thinks it will be his best because he's never been a tag team champion. Yeah, Orton has been a tag team champion. He was a tag team champion with Edge when they were rated RK Bro. And you can't forget Evolution. So Randy Orton has been a tag team champion before he was with Riddle. He ended up saying that he's also never had a partner or a friend like this. Or ended up saying that he organized his party. He ended up saying that he's not as good as Riddle with things like this. So Riddle was like, oh, this is the greatest night of my career. So Orton ended up saying that he has gifts on the table. a concession stand popcorn and bubble gum. And Orton ended up saying that he goes with the gum. He had one more item that Orton says goes with the gum, and that it must be shared. And it was a small green bag. And Orton ended up saying that he looked high and low for it. So then the Street Profits end up coming out. The Profits end up interrupting RK Bro's celebration. So the Profits end up trying to get an RK Bro chant. Riddle ended up calling them into the party, saying that he didn't realize Orton invited them. Montez Ford ended up saying that they didn't come to party, reminding RK Bro that they recently pinned them on Raw last Monday. So the Profits end up challenging Orton and Riddle to a match at WrestleMania. Orton ended up going on about all they had to do to get a rematch for the Raw Tag Team titles. Orton ended up saying that they can't just win a match and expect to be next in line. So Orton ended up saying to the Profits, "Thank you for coming." He offered them some popcorn, and Orton ended up saying that the answer is no. Riddle ended up calling them bros, but Dawkins ended up saying that when it comes to the titles, they're not bros. Montez Ford ended up saying that he doesn't know if Orton understood him. Ford ended up saying that RK Bro owes them a title shot, and they're past asking for opportunities around here. So the Profits were telling RK Bro that they will be facing them at WrestleMania. So Orton ended up going on about how none of the big names he's faced have told him what he will do when in the ring, including Vince McMahon. And Montez Ford won't either. So Orton ended up telling Montez Ford to take his homie and leave the ring, or he's going to listen to the voices in his head and make them leave. So Riddle ended up getting in between Orton and the Profits. Riddle ended up saying that they did make a good point, and RK Bro needs some opponents for WrestleMania. Riddle ended up saying that it's the right thing to do. So Orton and Riddle ended up stepping to the side, they ended up talking it over. Orton ended up saying that the Profits are lucky his boy Riddle is cool. So Orton went on to say that they accept the challenge at WrestleMania. Montez Ford ended up thanking them, ended up saying next time they'll show RK Bro how to throw a party that's not so ass. So Riddle got upset. Riddle ended up stopping Montez Ford from leaving. And Riddle ended up saying, "Don't disrespect Orton like that, because he put work into this party." So Riddle ended up saying that he thought they were cool, but he doesn't even want to wait until WrestleMania now. Dawkins ended up saying that if Riddle wants to mess with Montez Ford, he's got it, because they're up, and they were going to say they want the smoke, but Orton ended up interrupting, and ended up saying that we're not ending this segment like this. We're ending it with the 3 most dangerous letters, RKO. So that was how the segment ended, but I thought this was a enjoyable segment, in my opinion. RK Bro, celebrating them winning the Raw Tag Team Championship again. But it was enjoyable. Enjoyable segment. And then we had Montez Ford versus Riddle, which this was an okay match. So Ford ended up taking control early on in the match. Riddle delivered a gut-wrench slam, and he delivered another one to Ford. Riddle ended up going for the cover. Ford ended up kicking out at 2. Riddle then ended up hitting the fisherman suplex on Ford. He went for the cover. Ford ended up kicking out at 2. Riddle ended up rocking Ford with a knee for another pin attempt. Ford ended up rolling Riddle, but they ended up rolling through, and Ford ended up nailing a drop kick to Riddle. Ford then clotheslined Riddle out to the floor. Montez Ford ended up going to the top, ended up leaping down, and Riddle ended up countering. Riddle then ended up going for a German suplex on the floor. Ford ended up landing on his feet off the counter, which was cool. Ford ended up leaping off the ring steps. He ended up decking Riddle to knock him back down. And as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, both Riddle and Montez Ford would trade some offense on each other. Riddle ended up kicking Ford. Montez Ford ended up fighting Riddle off, ended up avoiding the explosive suplex from the corner. Riddle kept on fighting, and he ended up catching Ford with a power slam. So then we had Otis appear later on. Otis ended up appearing at ringside, ended up attacking Orton. He ended up sending him into the barricade. Chad Gable then ended up attacking Dawkins, sending him into the ring post. Riddle ended up coming out, and Otis ended up attacking Riddle, launched him into the barricade. So the referee ended up calling for the bell. So Riddle ended up winning by disqualification. Post-match, the Alpha Academy ended up hitting a double team on Dawkins, Otis, and Chad Gable. And Otis delivered a second rope Vader bomb to Montez Ford. Gable followed that up with a moonsault to Montez Ford. And that was that. So it looks like we're going to begin a triple threat match at WrestleMania for the Raw Tag Team Championship. Alpha Academy versus RK Bro versus the Street Profits. So that's exciting. That's so exciting. But overall, it was no key match between Riddle and Montez Ford. Aside from disqualification, but I knew where it was going. And then we had a tribute for Scott Hall. There's a video package of highlights from Scott Hall's career. What a well put together, very well done video package it was. You could tell that Corey Graves was getting very emotional. Looked like he was about to cry. But it was just a very well done video package tribute to Scott Hall. But may he rest in peace. And then we had the main event. Kevin Owens versus Seth Rollins. The winner, if Rollins wins the match, he will replace Kevin Owens at WrestleMania to interview Stone Cold Steve Austin. So we had a video package. Yeah, they had to have a video package of what we saw earlier in the night with Owens and Rollins. I'm like, why are we getting a video package of this when we saw it earlier in the night between Owens and Rollins? It doesn't make any fucking sense. So Kevin Patrick was backstage with Rollins. Rollins ended up saying that he was lost, but now he is found. He ended up saying that he's learned that not only does he need WrestleMania, but WrestleMania needs Seth freaking Rollins. And he's about to punch his ticket right now. So Rollins ended up making his way to the ring. And then Monday Night Raw went to commercial. And then as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Kevin Owens was in the ring. So Rollins and Owens were arguing. The bell ended up ringing. Rollins ended up going for a quick roll-up. And Owens and Rollins were continuing to stall. They were talking trash to each other. Owens was yelling about his spot. And Rollins ended up attacking him with the knee. Started striking Owens. Backing Owens into the corner. Owens ended up fighting back. Rollins started beating him down in the corner. Owens ended up putting Rollins in the corner. Started working him over. Rollins turned it back around. And Owens took Rollins down. Started mounting on him. They ended up fighting back to the feet. Rollins ended up clotheslining Kevin Owens. Rollins delivered a diving knee to the head for a quick pin attempt. Rollins ended up sending Owens to the floor, and he followed him out as fans were booing. Owens ended up sending Rollins' leg into the barricade a few times, which Rollins' leg was hurt. Owens ended up bringing Rollins back into the ring, started focusing on his hurt leg. Rollins is. Owens started grounding Rollins, ended up bending his knee back. Rollins ended up escaping, but Owens ended up staying on him. Owens ended up stopping on Rollins, starting to load some punches to Rollins on the apron. He ended up going for the powerbomb on the edge of the apron, but Rollins countered and ended up backdropping Kevin Owens on the apron. So Rollins ended up running to the ring, leapt out with a suicide dive. Owens blocked it and nailed a fallaway slam into the barricade. And then Owens followed that up with a senton on the floor. And at the end of the match, we had Rollins end up blocking the stunner. He ended up rolling Owens up for a close 2 count. And the referee had to reposition himself, because the referee looked like he almost counted 3, but he had to reposition himself, the ref. So Rollins and the referee were arguing. Rollins wasted time. He ended up missing the stomp because Kevin Owens got back up. Kevin Owens came right back and delivered the stunner to Rollins. So he went for the cover. And there you go. Kevin Owens ended up winning the match. So he gets to keep his WrestleMania spot to interview Stone Cold Steve Austin on the KO show at WrestleMania. Overall, this match was a waste of time. Why was this match even the main event? Did we really need to have this match? Obviously, Kevin Owens was still going to WrestleMania to have an interview with Stone Cold Steve Austin on the KO show. This match was not needed. Overall, this Monday Night Raw was absolutely abysmal. Rinse and repeat with matches from Bianca Belair versus Doudrop, Damian Priest versus Finn Balor, and Liv Morgan versus Zelina Vega. Even though we've seen a tag team match with them last week where it was just Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley teaming up against Carmella and Queenslander Vega, it was the same outcome in the end, where Liv Morgan ended up pinning Zelina Vega. Rinse and repeat. Man, this show is absolutely fucking abysmal. And also, Cody Rhodes, there was talks of Cody Rhodes coming to Monday Night Raw tonight because Raw was in Jacksonville, and they were playing it up. WWE's playing up. Oh, will Cody Rhodes show up on Monday Night Raw? And he didn't come to Monday Night Raw. So WWE swerved everybody thinking that Cody Rhodes was going to show up because they were in Jacksonville tonight. Obviously, I didn't fall for it because I knew Cody Rhodes wasn't going to show up on Raw tonight. I ain't letting WWE, fool me, because I knew Cody Rhodes wasn't even going to show up. But yeah, WWE swerved everyone thinking that Cody Rhodes was going to show up tonight. Anyways, that's it for my Night Raw review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and I will see you all Wednesday night for the AEW Dynamite review. So, see you all on Wednesday night.